The editor of a book supplement, whom I shan't name here, asked me for a piece, and I wrote a piece on writing short, the modern passion for brevity and conciseness and so on. And I said, of course, that the great masterpieces of novels were not short. They were, Dickens indulged himself, and others did. And I said, trying to be funny, I said this may be compared to a passion that men sometimes have for stout women. That they prefer a long novel just as they prefer a stout woman, on the ground that you can't get too much of a good thing. The piece was sent back to me. I was politically incorrect. I would affront fat ladies, and that mustn't be done. That was a no-no.
He could be as cruel as the next person, And you know that story of him with his foot in his mouth? He put his foot in his mouth often. He couldn't stop being satiric sometimes. It was in his nature to see the satiric association and to blurt it out.
And did you find it funny?
Sure. Little Schadenfreude does you good every once in a while.
If you know that little short story, Him with His Foot in His Mouth, it's a long, extended letter. It's an apology to Miss Rose, someone he offended years ago, and he's now in his old age trying to make up to her for the nastiness of his remarks. And there was that. He had that kind of biting wit that could just take someone's head off.
The story was provoked by the receipt of a letter. Somebody who had known my father many years before back at Bard College wrote him a letter when they were older men, saying, you were very rude to Mrs. So-and-so, the librarian, and this is what you said to her, and you told this joke at her expense.
It seems that when he was a young professor, he was walking across the campus one day with a fellow professor, and the librarian had just come outside and was standing outside and saw him passing in a new summer hat. And she said to him, "Oh, you look like an archaeologist." And he said, "And you look like something I've just dug up." And it seems that this little saying of his ruined her life.
I'm quite sure he actually said that. He couldn't help it. He couldn't resist. That he had that kind of mind. He was always turning things around on you.
The story begins like this. Dear Miss Rose, I almost began my dear child, because in a sense what I did to you 35 years ago makes us the children of each other. I have from time to time remembered that I long ago made a bad joke at your expense and have felt uneasy about it. But it was spelled out to me recently that what I said to you was so wicked, so lousy, gross, insulting, unfeeling, and savage that you could never in 1,000 years get over it. I wounded you for life, so I am given to understand, and I am the more greatly to blame because this attack was so gratuitous.
Him with his foot in his mouth is, I think, could be read as the apology of a writer for any cruelty that he may inadvertently have caused in his description of the people whom he knew.
When he was on his deathbed, he was visited by an old friend of his, Eugene Goodhart, a professor of English at Brandeis. And he was sitting by Bellow's bedside, and Bellow was going in and out of consciousness. And at one moment, he seemed to wake up, looked at Goodhart and said, "Was I a man or was I a jerk?" He was full of guilt and remorse throughout his career about at the moments in which it seemed like his responsibilities as a man were shunted to the side in order to fulfill his responsibilities as a writer.
In daily life, I don't ask myself very often what is honorable and what is dishonorable, but I do when I'm writing. I ask myself, would it be dishonorable to put the thing this way? That is, would it discredit my religious faith or my artist's faith. But there is some connection between those two